Arata is a loser who can't get a girlfriend, but one day his father reveals that his 5 sisters are actually adopted, so now they all start trying to win his attention. The story starts by introducing the Shinji family. Our main character Arata, Shion, Oka, Seiha, Minami, Banri, and the youngest Kotono. While Shion and Arata are talking, the girls join them, assuming they were talking about women. They chat for a bit about relationships, and Arata ends up looking like a total perv, since there was apparently some kind of incident with Kotono. Seiho points out that relationships between siblings aren't right, so Arata clears things up and says what happened with Kotono was just a misunderstanding. On another note, Kotono is turning 15 next Saturday, so they all decide to go out together to celebrate. Later on, the siblings go out and people can't help but admire their looks, saying the 2 brothers are lucky to live with such beautiful girls. But the guys don't feel that lucky, since their dad always gives more attention to the girls. Even so, they admit their sisters are amazing. Banri studies at a prestigious university to become a nurse, and she's popular with people of all ages. Seiha runs the school's science club, has the best grades, and a lot of students admire her calm personality. Oka is the star of both the swimming and track teams. Everyone respects her, and she might even become student council president. Minami is an incredible tennis player who's won the championship 3 years in a row, and she could even go pro at an Olympic level. And Kotono, with her introverted personality, has a lot of fans who see her as sweet and adorable. But even though they're all amazing, Arata doesn't see them that way. At that point, Shion asks what really happened with Kotono. Turns out she confessed her feelings to him, but he rejected her because she's her little sister. The girl Arata actually likes is Lala, but he doesn't say anything because he's really passive when it comes to women. When he gets home, he thinks about adding her on social media, but in the end, he just doesn't have the guts. Then his twin sister Oka walks into his room and suddenly asks him who he likes. She gets excited when she finds out it's Lala, since they're in the same committee, and offers to help him out, but Arata says he doesn't need it. Unfortunately for him, the next day he sees Lala with another guy, so now he feels like he has no chance. Later, everyone gathers in the dining room since it's Kotono's birthday, and we finally meet their father. Before making a toast, he says there's something important they need to talk about, and gets straight to the point, telling them they're not actually siblings. They were all adopted, and the only real siblings are Shion and Minami. He promised his late wife he'd tell them the truth once Kotono turned 15, and after that, the whole room falls silent. After dinner, they all talk things out. Oka thinks it wasn't the right moment to say it, but Seiha disagrees, saying they couldn't keep it a secret forever. The others don't really know what to say, but in the end, they all agree that despite everything, they're still family and decide to keep treating each other that way. Later, Arata goes to take a bath, but he runs into Kotono, who asks him to wash her back like always. At the same time, Oka talks with Shion, and they mention that even if they're not related, Arata will still be the heir. But Shion also points out that now, technically, they could fall in love with each other. Then Uka asks what happened between Arata and Kotono. Shion explains that Kotono confessed her feelings to him, but when he rejected her, she couldn't accept it and ended up throwing herself at him. That leaves them thinking, because if Kotono really loves him, she's probably gonna go all in now. And that's exactly what she's doing, as she tells him once again that she loves him. But for the protagonist, Kotono is still just his little sister. After that, he goes back to his room, where Seiha is waiting for him. He asks what she's doing there, and she says nothing in particular. But then she starts doing some pretty questionable things, and ends up feeling relieved when she sees that Arata doesn't lose control. It turns out she saw everything that happened in the bathroom and heard how Arata handled the situation with Kotono. Still, she had her doubts and wanted to see if he would give in to his sister's charm. So after confirming that Arata still sees them as sisters, she calmly heads back to her room. The next day, the guys head to school. Shion points out that despite everything, the girls are acting like nothing happened, but he wonders if they're just pretending. At the end of the day, Arata runs into Minami by the lockers, the most cheerful of the sisters. They talk about how amazing she is at tennis, and it's clear her talent has earned her a lot of fans. However, because she's so dedicated to tennis, she failed her exams and her grades are pretty bad. So Arata decides to help her study. He does his best to teach her, but Minami is pretty hopeless when it comes to studying. Out of nowhere, she starts singing, and Arata mentions how she's always having a good time, saying that she's the one he enjoys being around the most. But his happy moment comes to an end when he sees Lala with her boyfriend, and even Minami notices the shift in his mood. After a while, they end up talking about the whole reveal that they're not actually siblings. Minami is the most optimistic one, so for her, the bond they've built over the years matters more than blood. But then, out of nowhere, she tells him he shouldn't feel down just because the girl he likes has a boyfriend, since he's got great qualities and will definitely find the right person soon. A few days later, Arata runs into Kotono, who's acting like nothing ever happened. So Arata assumes she's already moved on from the idea of being with him. A little later, Arata mentions how crazy it is how popular Oka is at school. Then one of her friends starts saying Arata is actually pretty attractive and that she might ask him out. But according to Oka, Arata's just a gorilla who doesn't know how to treat women. The funny part is she turns red while saying all that. The next day, they finally go out together to celebrate Kotono's birthday. Arata and Banri go buy some food, but when they come back, the girls are gone. Since they can't find them, Banri suggests they go on a little date, so they end up walking around together. The thing is, Banri always makes him nervous. She knows exactly what she's doing when she presses herself against his arm and even teases him, saying her huge feelings are too much for a virgin like him. But joking aside, Banri is beautiful, and she's the most popular out of all the sisters, to the point where Arata's completely distracted, even tripping because he can't stop staring at her. After a while, they start going on the rides, and eventually Arata asks what she thinks about what their dad told them. She's the oldest and she's not really worried about it, especially since their dad didn't even tell them everything. So the only thing she cares about is protecting the bond they have as siblings. That makes Arata remember how, when they were kids, Banri would always protect him from the others' mischief. Right then, a little girl trips and almost spills her drinks on Banri, but Arata steps in saying he also wants to protect their bond as siblings, which really moves her. Not long after, everyone meets up again and keeps hanging out together. At one point, 3 of them head to the bathroom and Seiha takes the chance to tell the others what she saw earlier. They're all surprised, but Seiha explains that Arata acted like a proper brother, and that she even tested him herself and confirmed he doesn't have any impure thoughts. Oka also chimes in saying that whole incident was actually caused by Kotono, and that Arata took the blame to protect her. In the end, they decide not to worry about it since Arata doesn't seem to have any intentions of doing anything with Kotono, and they hope she'll move on soon. Just then, the others come back and they all get ready to head home. I have no idea where the others went, but hold on tight because right here, Uka straight up tells him she loves him. Then she quickly plays it off, saying it's just as her twin brother, which definitely puts him at ease. After that, she walks away on her own, saying she just said something disgusting. Kinda suspicious if you ask me. But the night's not over yet, because while Uka was talking to Arata, the girls were out buying plushies, and they couldn't decide what color to pick for her. So Minami went to ask her and ended up hearing when Uka told Arata she loves him. That's why the next day she goes to talk to him. She doesn't really know how to bring it up, so she just asks if anything's been going on with Uka. Arata says no, and she immediately leaves after that. But she knows exactly what she heard. A little later, Banri shows up in his room, which is pretty unusual. She starts joking around, trying to find something dirty on his computer. Obviously, Arata snatches it away, and that's when she asks him to go on a date. But in reality, she takes him to a phone store, since Arata had mentioned he wanted a new one. Once they're inside, Arata picks a phone without thinking too much about it. And since they look like a couple, they get offered a couple's plan, but Arata turns it down. After that, they go get some ice cream, and Banri asks him if everything's going well in his life, and he says yeah. At the same time, Kotono is happily looking at the pictures they took together, and right then, Banri sends this picture to the sisters group chat. Kotono gets a little jealous for a moment, but tries not to think about it. Back to the two of them, Banri wants to keep the date going. But suddenly she gets a message, and her expression completely changes. She then says something came up, but before she leaves, Arata asks why she didn't just go out with her boyfriend instead. She reacts in a weird way, then quickly tries to brush it off with a joke. A bit later, Banri calls Minami to tell her that apparently everything's fine with Arata. Minami is completely confused, but in the end, she sends Banri a message saying maybe she misheard, because there's no way Uka would say something like that to him. The problem is, she accidentally sends that message to the sisters group chat. She deletes it right away, but Kotono had already seen it.